Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the TechGig podcast, folks. I'm your host, Sukriti, and today we are diving into a crucial topic that's reshaping the financial landscape: innovation in banking technology. Now, with the rapid digital transformation in banking, security, and user experiences are at the forefront of discussions, now that we know that it is all transforming day by day, and there are a lot of things that are changing. To help us decode all these things and the evolution of the entire fintech landscape, we have a very special guest with us today, Mr. Sivaram Kowta, who is the president banking at Zeta. Now, Sivaram is an industry leader with a deep expertise in banking technology, security, and digital transformation. Welcome to the Tech Geek podcast, Sivaram.
Thank you, Sukriti. Thank you for having me here. Really, the pleasure is all mine.
Okay, so Sivaram, let's start with a pressing concern, which is cybersecurity, right? With the rapid evolution of cyber threats, what are the biggest security challenges financial institutions are facing today?
Yeah. No, I think the threat is extremely real. I've been taking hold of any forum or anyone who will have me to talk about this. Uh, you know, First and foremost, UPI has shot up to billions and billions of transactions per month. And just think about it. All it takes is a four-digit PIN, right? We don't even have an email password that allows four digits and four numerical numbers. It can be extremely straightforwardly engineered, social engineering. And we are seeing a little bit of rise in those kind of incidents, right? Especially for the vulnerable sections of society, the elderly, the lesser educated, etc., definitely suffering. Even the other day, I was on my way to the airport, and my taxi driver, in the process of driving, just realized that someone swapped some 2 lakh rupees out of his bank account on UPI. And obviously, he was not in a state to drive, etc., and I had to do something to help him out. So the UPI being so massive and based on so little definitely is a concern. And it's not that our core infrastructure also is extremely stable. All the core infrastructure was built for an era where people were face to face. You would go to the branch and then you would access it. At the branch, there's a person. There's a person assessing you, and then the banker is accessing the system and then giving, giving you whatever you needed. That has now been replaced by APIs, digital banking, etc. Unfortunately, I don't think as much security cover as required has gone in there. So certainly, it's an extremely concerning state. The rise of AI is only first going to aid the abusers or the hackers first. They are now able to mimic the audio, they are able to mimic the video, make it look extremely real as a known person to extract information out of you. And we are seeing increasing number of cases of this. So in our view, there literally is no other solution apart from moving away from what you know, which is what the entire password system is based on, towards what you have, right? It needs to be device based, what you have. And then hopefully at least you have to get physical access to that device of the person. But if the person understands that it is critical, then they will keep it safe. So there are FIDO compliant devices that are out there, just that they are very cost prohibitive today. But I don't think the industry should back off because of the cost. They should go for it because just look at how Bluetooth happened. Right? When the first Bluetooth devices came out, they were thousands of rupees. But today, even for a few hundred rupees, you get your Bluetooth speaker, you get your Bluetooth earphones, etc. So when there is adoption, there are cost revolutions also that happen. So there has to be a move towards going there, and the ecosystem, all the right stakeholders have to come together to take on this threat together. Any one party, be it just the bank, be it the payment provider, be it anybody, trying to take on the fraudster independently is only going to meet failure, because where the fraud happens, fraud is happening at the margin. That's where they're able to take advantage. So everyone has to come together. I think it's a mammoth task in front of us for sure.
Okay, so that's really insightful. You shared upon how businesses or decision makers should start acting upon it and not withdraw themselves as it's on the expensive side or maybe involves a lot of risks. Now, one of the major security frameworks that we keep hearing about is zero trust architecture. And it's a very interesting one as well, Sivaram. How does this zero trust help banks stay ahead of sophisticated cyber threats? And what are the key steps to implementing it effectively?
Yeah. So we at Zeta have been following a zero trust architecture model since our inception. So from 2014, we have been following this. Essentially, the concept is you don't trust anyone or anything. Um, how is it different from what happens today? Today, it's a strong door security. The door is very strong, but once you get in, you're considered part of the friends gang or something. So even in a server where the bank puts all its software, or even if they host something somewhere, they follow a strong door philosophy where there will be a lot of checks at the edge, and then they let you in. And once you're in, then you are allowed to be relatively free. Zero trust fundamentally assumes that nobody is a friend. So any service talking to another service has to authenticate itself every single time. Um, it creates some overhead on the service because every time there's an authentication leg. But when designed right, when architected right, that overhead comes to almost minimal or nothing. Um, and the benefits are this, that you now have services. So even if somebody gets in through the edge, they cannot access anything inside because there is nobody trusting that service just because it is inside. Right. So, uh, and we also do a lot of shift left security, which means, for example, when we deploy all our software, uh, the entire platform, etc., as it is deployed, there is no root access that any program that we deploy has. So the ability to do anything is highly, highly limited. And that is by choice. So we design for principles like that, that don't assume that you need root access in a production environment. Uh, because you need the root access is obviously one of the strongest ways in which the hacker would get in and try to access your information, etc. We also put in a double or triple layer of securities on the edge, and use multiple service providers and keep updating them all the time. We also we also go through a change approval board process whenever we are changing the software or upgrading the software, and we upgrade the software extremely frequently to the tune of almost maybe 100 times a month, right? Which means multiple times a day the software gets upgraded. A small upgrade here, a big upgrade, and so on. But in each of those times, we ensure there is a change approval board where the code is gone through, the impact analysis of that is gone through, and only then the software moves in. And all of it goes through a series of automated tests also. We check the code for vulnerabilities. Now, we may have written good code, but we may be, say, using Java or some other package, and that package might have a vulnerability. So that package can then be exploited. So all of those things are checked before code is pushed in, and only those which meet the bar are actually allowed to go in. And all this is highly automated. That's how we achieve zero trust architecture in practice.
Okay, now another key concern is authentication security, right? You just spoke about how OTP-based authentication is being widely used, and how it is also, putting all of us at vulnerabilities when it comes to the finances and our bank accounts and everything. What are some alternative mechanisms that can enhance security while ensuring a seamless user experience?
Yeah. So as I said, the ultimate answer probably lies in what you have, which is which is a FIDO compliant device. There used to be these RSA tokens. They would come as a small kit, or it can be part of your phone itself. But it has to be something that you have. But there are other options, I think, that can be immediately adopted. The telecom networks can actually take a big step and move in the direction of silent mobile authentication. Now, in silent mobile authentication, what happens is the there is no SMS being sent that you can see. Uh, it is the network, because they obviously control the network. They are sending their messages, which are not available anywhere for anyone to see. They are sending the messages and saying, yes, I have got the OTP on the other side. Right. So silent mobile authentication is not exactly hack proof, but it is definitely exponentially more tougher to hack through. So that is a method that users could that the telcos should be really pushing. Maybe even offer it as a service, and then therefore the you know all the other financial apps and whoever needs would use that to authenticate the user. The other things that people could use are just multi-factor. You have an SMS OTP. Now, SMS, the reason we don't like SMS at all is that it is like a 1960s, 70s protocol. It was meant for exchanging some messages. It is completely open text. There is no encryption, nothing. So if somebody has an app they've installed on my phone, they can read my SMS, and therefore that's how most of these sports betting apps, etc. That's how they come in and they read our OTPs and they keep forwarding it to the abuser. Um, but if you bring it up with multiple other factors, you could use Google authentication, Microsoft authentication, or any authenticator. Those are significantly tougher to crack. Use that in conjunction with OTP, or even you can do away with OTP and use that alone. Or even moving from SMS OTP to email OTP, because hacking into a Gmail is not so simple, right? So again, social engineering can crack it because I need to guess the password, but they can't guess the password on their own. They have to work with me in some way, fool me to get it. So it's tougher. So multiple methods of authentication, using silent mobile authentication, and ultimately just going to the speedo compliant what you have devices. Uh, I think these are the next steps that should come for the authentication.
Okay. Let's talk about AI and ML a little, which we all of us know that it's sort of changing the entire fintech industry, and how it's revolutionizing the entire front end, back end when it comes to managing the banking industry altogether. What role do you think that they play in the fraud detection and prevention in the financial systems, Sivaram?
No, I think they're tremendously important. They're also a tremendous threat because remember, this is very universally available. So before the banks will move across their, labyrinth systems, etc., and then adopt it, the hacker would have already adopted it. So the threat from AI is already visible. They are able to mimic your friend's voice, even in fact their image, and conduct social engineering to get out these passwords, etc., from you. They are able to really build trust with AI, right, and therefore fool you. So that's the threat of it. Uh, Banks definitely are, and in fact, we are working closely with some of the largest banks in the country on using AI to detect frauds. Uh, See, fraud detection historically has worked this way, that you look at a pattern, you look for a pattern of transactions. Somebody, because once somebody has social engineered someone out, then the password is available with that guy, or his Aadhaar, PAN, something is available with that guy, with the hacker. So he is doing the right authentication and therefore doing the transaction. Now, how do you detect that it's a fraudulent transaction? So you look for patterns. Now, there's, for example, a pattern where he would have mass engineered 1,000 people, and every day he's going to take 10 rupees out of them. Because it is 10 rupees, nobody notices. And he does that for as long as it continues. Now, it is possible for us to detect this pattern and say that there is a single account which is trying to take 10 rupees out, or 10 rupees are going from 1,000 accounts into a single account, and it's happening for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, etc. And then you know that the destination account is fraudulent, and then you step in and do this. Now, there are hundreds and thousands of such patterns which come, which are, which are all something that we as people, humans, have sat down, gone through the data and said, okay, this is a pattern that's emerging. Let's go through. A lot of data science, everything goes into it, but ultimately it is work that's not happening in real time. That's happening post real time. And a few days later, you come back. So the first time a fraud is perpetuated on a new pattern, they get away for some time because they don't know how to catch. There's no pattern catching them. Then somebody complains, then you go in and check what happened. And then you detect the pattern and then you put it in. Now with AI, especially the generative AI, what we are now able to do is if these thousands of patterns are given to the AI model, it will find the 1,001th pattern and automatically alert you or even take action as you want it to. And it is doing so with a fair amount of accuracy. That's the best part of it. It's not doing so many false positives. False positive is where the transaction, everything is good, but you're thinking it's fraud and shutting him off. So the false positives are very low. Um, so AI, I think, will play a very, very significant role. Uh, we, of course, also have to see how to keep AI out of the hands of the hacker, or at least limit their ability to use it, because it's like a two-sided blade. We are using it to catch these patterns and catch them. They are also using this to skip our patterns. So they are also doing transactions by going through an AI and asking it to, giving it the same 1,000 and saying that you now come up with a 1,001th pattern that the other team won't be able to catch. So and AI will do it. I mean, it's that. So it's working for both sides. We have to find a way to reduce access to them and increase access to us.
Okay. So we started our conversation with, of course, cyber threats and how industries can take steps. You also spoke about zero tech architecture, authenticity, and the entire progress the entire fraternity of the fintech is making. Let's talk about customer experience after this, Sivaram. How can do you think financial organizations strike a balance between robust security measures and customer convenience, because these critical risks also affect, or let's just say somewhere or the other puts up the customer at an experience that can be pleasant and unpleasant, and it's the organization's responsibility to maintain that, right?
Yes. Having said that, I fundamentally have never found a challenge where, because we are doing security this way, that way, customer experience is hurt. That does not happen. I mean, I have a very, very firm, maybe bitter view towards the industry. I just say you guys are being lazy, right? It costs more, certainly. It costs more. But if you build it right, there is no reason why customer experience should be hampered. For example, one of the things that we do is when you do payments using any Zeta system, all you get is a notification on your phone. You access the notification, it shows you a very nice visual swipe source, right? It just says swipe to pay. So you made a transaction. Instead of getting an OTP, you got this notification and you're swiping. The user swipes and the transaction is done. It is in fact faster because the notification comes instantly. It is more secure because what that notification is based on is device binding and SIM binding during the registration that we would have done on the user. And it has also got a higher success rate, say, compared to the SMS OTPs. SMS OTP sometimes just don't get delivered. It's a problem we have all seen, right? Especially during high sale and all that. Sometimes the SMS OTPs just don't come. All those problems are eliminated. So we need to think hard about how we want to implement the right security, never compromise that. Yeah, then why should customer experience be compromised? There is no reason why it should be compromised. Um, the the problem with a lot of the fintechs is they built very thin wrappers on top of the bank's core systems. So if the bank's core is operating a certain way, they don't have any option. So they're not able to improve the experience beyond that. So, but otherwise, if you're operating the right way, there should never be a situation where these two are conflicting. Uh, and we've been in this business for 10 years. We have solved so many of these problems for ourselves and our clients that today I find it uh, impossible to believe that somebody is not able to solve. We have never come across a security problem uh, that was solved only by curbing the customer experience. That's my point. So I think if you think hard enough, you can solve both.
Great. I want to end this conversation with how cybersecurity can be a very collective effort, as you just mentioned, that there are solutions available and we should not refrain. What collaborative efforts do you think between financial services players, regulators, and cybersecurity firms are crucial to strengthen the financial security ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. I think we need to come together and somebody has to bring us together. So I'm glad that RBI themselves are taking steps. They've spoken about putting together a public risk registry. right? Because the biggest banks will have more data, the smaller banks will have less data, and so on and so forth. But everyone will benefit because, as I said, all the fraud happens at the margin. Money may be going out from SBI straight into, I don't know, say a syndicate bank, which is significantly weaker. Uh, but SBI also benefits by knowing that the money went to a problematic source, etc. So uh, the public risk registry that the government has come out with, I think, is a fantastic move. It's not live. I don't see the timelines when they're talking about making it live, but the idea is solid, and they should do more around that. There should just be a lot more information sharing. Risk is not a topic around which anyone should be allowed to build a commercial value proposition in the sharing of data. That's what I mean. Now, on top of that data, definitely a lot more pattern analysis, a lot more fraud detection, etc., has to be done on top of it. And definitely, that's a commercial play. Enough and more companies should come. In fact, I think the way every fintech seems to be approaching the market is they're only going after B2C. They're going after consumers, and they end up more or less giving them a loan or something, right? So the fintech innovation in most cases is very minimal. Good UI, good app, push it hard, extend a loan, which is like a marketplace. It seems to be the same model repeated again and again and again. Maybe sometimes they put it with payments as a background, sometimes with straight away it's just about loans. But this is ultimately the monetization model. But I think and none of them are broken even, none of them are doing that great, etc. I think it's a flawed approach itself to only focus on that area. There is a huge opportunity in becoming a specialist, like fraud. Build the right models on top of the public databases and supply that. So there is a lot of commercial opportunity and a lot of good you will do to the nation also. If there are enough and more companies that go behind specialized topics. And in risk, it's not a single topic. There are so many topics, right? Fraud detection, real-time fraud is a completely other packet. Identity is a whole topic in itself. Authentication is a topic. There are at least half a dozen topics where we don't see too many creative solutions out there today. Um, and if you have to go for, I mean, you have only two options. You can either take some of the good open source stuff, but then you have to maintain and manage it yourself, or you have to go buy the commercial software. The commercial software out there is extremely expensive, right? It makes a big hole in the pocket, etc. But it works. So there's a third option. Somebody could actually disrupt this space. Uh, so I think that's the direction we should take in the area of risk and fraud.
Okay, now that was an incredible, insightful discussion, Sivaram. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and shedding light on how innovation is shaping the future of banking industry. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts on for our listeners?
Uh, no, I would just say be careful. Out there, this is a very real thing. Till it happens to us, we think it's not something that's real. Uh, it's just a matter of chance that it's not happened to each of you. It can happen. So be careful. Don't share your phones, etc. here and there. Definitely don't download apps. How much ever tempted you are, don't download this. I mean, certain types of apps, etc. Just stay away. Or better yet, keep a different phone for your banking transactions and a different phone for your personal lifestyle. That just cuts the whole thing off at its knees. Uh, but yeah, be careful.
All right. Thank you so much once again for joining us, Sivaram. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of the TechGig podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe and stay updated with more insights from the industry leaders. Until next time, stay safe and stay innovative. Thank you.